Welcome to the Event Marketers Toolbox. I am Chris Dunn, and I'm super happy to have a couple good friends on the show today. I've been waiting on this one for quite a while. It is July 3rd. My company is literally closing right now, so I'm all alone here uh, in the office as everybody else goes and starts their vacation. But we're going to have a very kind of vacation-y vibe to the show today. So I'm going to kick it over to my co-host. Hey, Brendon, how you doing today?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing great. Great to see everybody. Thanks for having me again. Happy to be here. I'm Brendon Hamlin. I run Hamlin Creative. We're a production company that focuses on live events, and that's experiential, that's trade shows, that's activations, and creating content within that unique space. So it's been a great opportunity to be here with you, Chris, on this podcast, a number of episodes now, and so happy to be here today again with our good friend Carter.
Yeah. Hey, Carter, welcome.
Thank y'all. Looking forward to this. This is great.
Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm a leader of growth and a senior producer at Robotproof. Got a little bit of a hybrid role there. Robotproof's a full service experiential marketing agency. It was started in January of 2020. The perfect time to start an agency.
Exceptional timing.
Perfect timing. So they started in 2020. I joined the team in September of 21, which we did our first in-person event in November of 21. So almost 2 years from starting to actually doing experiences. But the team was started by some former MKTG folks, which big global agency that I was at for almost 10 years. And then now coming up on 4 years at Robotproof.
Fantastic, man. That's good stuff. So yeah, super happy to kind of be connected with both of you guys. Great to have Brendon back. He started as a guest, and then we bring him back as a guest podcast host. So I don't know, Carter, maybe this is in your future as well.
I love it.
We're on a live show today, so drop some questions and comments and hellos into our feed here. We see Sarah Hamlin. I think we know who she is, a friend, co-worker of Mr. Hamlin. Yes, absolutely. So we have a special show today. It's going to be a fun one. Is again, everybody's pretty much fixing to get on there. If you're in the U.S., then the long holiday weekend, July 4th being tomorrow, a lot of folks getting the afternoon off. So before we kind of jump into the meat and potatoes portion of the show and the questions and all of the great comments and banter back and forth, just a couple brief notice announcements here with regards to our sponsors. So I work for Blue Hive. Blue Hive Exhibits is a full service creative exhibit agency. And we are based in the Boston area as well as in Las Vegas. So we kind of have that East Coast, West Coast thing going on for us. We're kind of, we feel like we're that right-sized creative group. We're not small and boutique-y, although we have a lot of boutique-like attributes, but we're also not the real big guys where you get lost and you're just a number. So a real creative group with great customer service, great capabilities, and great partnerships throughout. And those partnerships are born oftentimes from, wonderful conversations and being on LinkedIn and so forth like this. Secondarily, the agency that actually helps us put this podcast on is called Fist Bump, and Fist Bump is one of our other sponsors. And this is a group who comes in and helps anyone who wants to kind of up level on LinkedIn through coaching, as well as kind of put together a media plan utilizing a channel like a podcast. So to be honest with you, I tried to pull this off on my own for several months and failed miserably. And finally, kind of jumped in with Fist Bump, and they do all the heavy lifting and they just make it really easy to pull everything together. So our amazing producer is sitting behind the scenes right now. So Juana, thanks so much. Appreciate all the help. And so that's the scoop on our sponsors. So I mentioned today's a bit of a special show, and kind of there's a connection and a story here. So about a year ago, Brendon and I became connected on LinkedIn, and on my profile, it says I'm a ski bum. I like to ski a lot. I'm a mediocre golfer, and that's probably generous. I'm actually a horrible golfer. But I also am a craft beer lover. And, whether you're, a beer lover, or if you're kind of doing all of the no alcohol thing, or wherever you're at on that is fine. But it's basically, it's a hobby. It's an interest. And we connect with people out there in the world, on all of sorts of different interests, whether it's a sports team, whether it's just kind of our geographical location, or, a band that we follow, whatever it is, right? There's these connection points. And I had posted about, different beers that I was trying and so forth. We have a beer club here at Blue Hive, and Mr. Hamlin shows up in my feed, and he's got a picture of him enjoying a lovely, cold beverage at a brewery. And I was like, I kind of want to hang out with that dude. He looks really fun. So that's kind of how that came together. And what I proposed to the team today was that we actually have a little bit of a live tasting. So this is, I got to find my camera. There we go. This is a koozies that Blue Hive made up. I have a ton of these. If anybody wants to drop me a DM with an address, I'm happy to send a few of these guys out. But this is a beer that showed up in our beer club. It's called Dead Flowers. It's from Foam Brewing out of Vermont. They make a lot of amazing brews. So I'm actually going to open this, and we're gonna talk a little bit, very briefly, before we jump into into our actual conversation. But it's a connection point. It's a shared interest. I pinged Carter yesterday, and he said, "I love beer." So I knew that he was in the right place, and I knew he's feeling very welcome and part of this group. So I've been talking for an awful lot. I'm super thirsty. I don't know if anybody else wants to join me, but really? I don't know. Brendon, tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
Well, okay. So I also have brought a local beer that has a little bit of a story that I'm excited to share. This is where's my camera? This is a Mosaic IPA called from Highwire, called High Pitch. And this is really one of my favorite beers. And Highwire was unfortunately hit pretty hard during the hurricane. And there we have an area
from Asheville.
In Asheville. Yes, sorry. Yep. In Asheville, we have this area called the River Arch District. It's right by the river, obviously, low point. All these businesses, galleries, breweries got wiped out. Highwire did not expect they were ever going to see that space again. And I just heard that they have just reopened their brewery and their tasting room, their beer hall in that space. And so I'm super excited to have this beer and also be rocking the Appalachian koozie because of our good friend Carter Parrish, who's joining us today.
There you go. We're going to drum up a ton of alumni support for Appalachia.
That's right.
The Atlanta chapter appreciates you, Brendon.
Good.
Send money to Carter.
Yes. Make it out to cash.
All right.
So I also, as Chris said, I do love beer. I love a craft beer. Mine is not a local one, but mine is from Downingtown, PA, Victory Brewing. And in honor of these two wonderful gentlemen putting this together, the name of the beer is Brotherly Love, out of Philly. But it's a IPA. I enjoy hazy IPAs. I don't know if anybody else enjoys those, but I like a good hazy IPA. But the selection today came more from the brotherly love in the community in this group. So cheers, gentlemen.
That's awesome.
Leaning into the name, as it were.
Yes,
right.
So,
well,
that's awesome.
Cheers.
So whatever
Cheers.
it is that draws you in and causes honest and authentic conversations to happen here on this platform or other social platforms and to connect people, like, lean into it. It's good stuff. So anyways, just wanted to kind of throw that out there. It's kind of a fun day. Oh, one other thing too, this shameless promotion. Last week we rocked out on these awesome custom sneakers that were made. We actually had Caleb Williams on the show, and he's the guy who made these for us. So I'm petrified to wear them because they're so freaking cool. I think I'll F them up. So anyways, but these things are the bomb. And not only do I have my beer, but I got my awesome shoes here with me as well to keep me company. So anyways, that has been a really fun start. Maybe we'll just do beer tastings from here on out as well. Hopefully we got a lot of people, commenting. So, hey to Kieran, hey to Sarah. We got a bunch of folks dropping in. So let us know where you're listening from. And some of the folks, I can't actually see who the users are. So if you want to throw your name in there, It's beer clock somewhere for everyone. So that it's showing up as a LinkedIn user. Who is that? Because I love that statement.
Yeah, our London
All right.
London team is cheersing as we speak. It's 5:10 over there. So
There you go.
Yeah, that's
absolutely. Awesome. All right, Brendon, get us started here with some industry related questions for Carter.
Oh, right. There's that part of it.
Damn.
Yeah. So Carter, again, it's just great to have you here today and join us and sort of share your insights on what you guys do at Robotproof. A lot of what we talk about on this podcast with Chris is specifically related to trade shows. But trade shows can live outside of that floor space, and kind of want to figure out or have you talk to us about, strategies and tactics to support maybe what's happening on the trade show floor, maybe outside that footprint with something that is brand focused and maybe enhances what's happening on the trade show floor. Can you speak a little bit to your experiences in that world?
Yeah, I mean, trade shows are an integral part of a marketing strategy for a brand, right? Whether it's a product launch or brand awareness or anything like that, trade shows are a pivotal part. But in order to take those dollars and stretch them further and help tell the story further, get more reach, is tying experiential elements outside of the booth to, one, potentially draw people to your booth. Because when you do that, it hopefully creates, it's not a cold conversation when they come into the booth. Now it's, hey, I saw you guys outside doing a sampling or a pop-up experience. Now it's a warm conversation because you've already kind of broke the ice to get in there. So that's a key part that makes it easier for your sales team to have those conversations. But data is super important. ROI is super important in a booth. But what if you can expand your data points and capture more data outside of just your booth? That's huge for the sales team and the ROI and showing the value and expanding that out. But at the end of the day, creating an experience is all about storytelling. Whether that's just within your booth, you're still telling a story. But how can you tell the full story to not just the people that are attending the show, but those potential end users that are out on the street, just having lunch that day? How can you interact with those folks and get real time feedback from those folks to help you come up with a marketing plan that works for your teams? At the end of the day, you want to create an ambassador of the product or the service, not just a customer.
And I guess it really, if you're doing an activation, let's say outside of the convention center, you're really doubling your opportunity, right? So you're getting that traffic. If you're only at the trade show booth, you're only getting whoever comes by, and if you miss people, right, you just miss them. But if you're outside, then there's twice the opportunity to connect with them, or maybe even funnel people to what's happening inside, right?
Yep, 100%. I mean, it's, again, the more you can get in front of real people and ask questions and understand what their pain points are and things like that, then you're capturing a lot more data. And to your point, you're creating that wider net that's going to get you more real data than people going to a show. You're probably limited in the amount of time you can talk to those people because you have to talk to so many people.
Right.
Again, you're capturing more data that it's not, in a trade show booth, you may be looking for 3 specific things. Well, out on the street, and you're hearing and having conversations with folks that are experiencing the product or a service, then you're starting to get, oh, well, that was a question I didn't even think about. Now you're capturing, again, more data that's beneficial for you from a marketing, from a sales, from a comms, from a PR. It's more beneficial for the whole group and not just who's in the trade show floor.
Yeah. Hey, Carter, I want to just kind of peel back on this a little bit. And before I do that, we getting a lot of folks in the comments here. So we got Leslie from Dallas, who's watching in LA. Zadia. Hey, Zadia, how you doing? Jersey girl, and Darren in Atlanta. So lots of folks checking in with us. And that's Bill L, who says beer o'clock somewhere. So Bill, love you, man. Freaking preach. So I'm thinking of specifically, I'm in one of my industries that I focus on is the aesthetic marketplace, or aesthetic laser market specifically. So one of their biggest shows is called AAD, American Academy of Dermatologists. And they've been in San Diego a whole bunch of times. San Diego's by far and away my favorite show city to go to, just because of all the things. But they do a great job of really, again, kind of reaching beyond the hall. There's a lot of pedicabs that shuttle people back and forth through the Gaslamp district to the convention center. They sponsor the pedicabs. Petco Park is right there. You've got the ballpark with all of the things going on, and obviously the airport. Sometimes you literally come down if there's a big show in town. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about CES, which literally takes over Vegas. Hey, MK, how we doing? You go down, you collect your baggage, and there's signage that's talking about the show or about a specific exhibitor. So what you guys specialize in as an experiential agency is setting up those kind of face-to-face, but do you also kind of get involved with making recommendations or helping people realize some of these sponsorship type of things where it's more of like money spent in a certain direction that's going to, grab eyeballs? Is that kind of in your wheelhouse? Do you talk about that kind of stuff as well?
100%. I'd say, bread and butter for Robotproof and the collective as a whole is creative strategy storytelling. That's numero uno. That should be the forefront of anything that we do. Yes, you'll get a brief in and you can go through the brief and check all the boxes, but asking the questions to the other team, like what really are the goals here? Is there more than just what's in this brief? So we try to lead with how can we best tell that story? Yes, there's the experiential physical build element, but what about out of home? What about other methods? Like I actually had pedicabs written down because we do that one a lot as well. What are fun ways to get the name and the product out in front of people that they can touch and see prior to the show, even post show? So yes, that's probably one thing that we lead with is asking the question is what's the story that needs to be told? And let's figure out the best ways in order to do that.
Nice. At the end of the day, right, it all comes back to the goals of the brand, of the exhibitor, of the people who are hosting the activations. What are we trying to get from this? So,
and making their dollars work smarter for them, right? People spend a lot of money on these, on not just the booths, but the experiences at these shows. Is how can we take those dollars and say, this is your best use of those dollars in this way, and then let's have an open conversation and be a partner to them.
Yeah. And just to kind of be clear for everybody, either watching live or listening after the fact on podcast, Carter, you guys, you're not bound by any means with regards to creating activations that are always connected to shows. Like there's plenty of examples where it's a pop-up or it's just a standalone, right? Or it's a roadshow, it's a mobile. So we're kind of tying it into the trade show conversation, but what percentage wise, like when you guys are doing projects, is it a 50-50 split, or is it heavier on there's really no trade show connected to it? We're doing this on its own.
Yeah. I mean, it's not always necessarily just a trade show, but it is tied to an event. So right now we've got the team over in the UK doing Formula One at Silverstone that's tied to Las Vegas. They're promoting their services and obviously the race coming to Vegas. So it's tied to a sporting event or something. It doesn't always have to be trade show, but most of the time it's tied to
another event,
some type of large event. That's
right. Yeah. Okay. So that event, there's some sort of a cataclysmic piece that's driving a bunch of people to a location. Very cool.
Yeah. Or it's a product launch and there's a date for, hey, this product is launching. We got to get it out to these heavy markets by this time to kind of prepare that launch and get pre-sales going and things like that. So we always try to tie it to some type of pinnacle event because that's when you're going to get the most eyeballs. So if we can create that education leading up to it, whether it's a trade show or a sporting event or some other kind of large event, that's kind of the cherry on top.
And it sounded like, and you're going to tell us about a specific CS activation that you guys did for Samsung. But I got to imagine if I'm in Vegas and it's CS time and somebody approaches me with a microphone, I know exactly where this conversation is going. It's going to be something to do with like, why am I here in town? What am I looking forward to? Right. Versus I'm just walking down the street in Boston and somebody shows up with a microphone. I'm like, oh, who are you and why are you, bothering me kind of thing. So when you're tied to that event, I would imagine that the conversations flow a lot more freely.
Yeah, 100%. And we avoid the microphone and going up to people in the technical sense. It's more of what kind of experience can we create for them to come to
Gotcha.
us and create that buzz, be like, that's interesting. What is
Right.
that? Let's bring them to
No, a
us.
willing
It's a lot
participant. I
more
want to be there.
open and honest, a willing participant,
Yeah.
exactly, than coming in being like, hey, look at this new projector, check this out. And then they're just like, whoa, time out. So we want to create those experiences that people want to ask questions and engage with on their own
Great,
term.
great. All right. Well, you've got some great examples. Tell us a little bit about this activation you did for Samsung out at CES, because I think, I'm such a visual person. Like, I kind of need you to paint a picture for me. Like, I got some ideas in my head, but what does this look like? What can it look like? Different, things that you guys have kind of played out that have had some really interesting successes.
Yeah, this was at CES in 2022, which if people in the events game remember, that was round 2 of kind of a COVID spell. So it was a weird time at that one. People were still showing up, but it was definitely not the full CES as it normally could be pre-COVID and to the point of now. But we saw an opportunity where Samsung was launching a brand new product, cool, trendy new product that was a battery powered projector that you could take with you anywhere. You could set up anywhere. It didn't have to have hardwire plug in. Like, it was for people to be like, I want to go in the backyard and put on a movie, or I want to lay in my bed and project something up on the screen. Like, it just created fun ways for people to capture and watch content. So the play here is, as you know, from my brotherly love, beer selection and play on words. I love a good play on words. With the product being called the Freestyle, we came up with the idea of, what if the people promoting the product were freestylers? So Vegas, entertainment, showstoppers, like that's what they're known for. The booth itself was not something we handled. That was handled. They were already planning to spend, millions, tens of millions of dollars on that booth space.
Yeah.
But in order, again, we talk about ROI, how to get people to the space. So we had the idea of almost a Vegas takeover. So essentially, we hired 70, I think it was 72 in the end. We'll just say 70 plus freestylers from all over the country. Cirque du Soleil performers. We had the LA Roller Girls. We had a freestyle footballer who was doing tricks, break dancers, like you name it. We probably had someone in that space. We all dressed them up in cool, like tracksuits with branding on it, with a digital backpack, which had content on the back, easy to scan a QR code, basically pushing pre-sales. And then with the person holding the product and projecting it on different surfaces all throughout Vegas. So not only do you have your people going to the booth that are going to go to the booth, they paid to be at CES, they're going to go there and see all the innovative product. But the end user for a product like that is you and I, just out on the street.
Right.
Like, I want to buy that product. So they wanted to create something that created buzz and then got pre-sales in there. That was really important for them, is people go ahead and order the product. So that was a big part of it, was like, try it out, see it in your hands, and then people would go on and scan that QR code and they would buy. So they had pre-sales lined up before the product even launched in the stores. So that was a great level of engagement there. But again, the taking over the strip. I mean, we had them out on the street. People that were watching the Bellagio fountain show were getting projected on the fountains and different things like that. They were in venues. They were at the convention center. They were just anywhere and everywhere, creating as much buzz and questions as they possibly could for this product, which was perfect timing because they were announcing the launch of the product at CES. So everyone just hit the ground running. And again, coming up with that story that ties into something else and getting all the groups involved was a huge part of that.
That's super cool. So just out of curiosity, just kind of my marketing brain kind of working on attribution on that from a tying back to ROI and effort. When people pre-ordered, was there a hashtag, go to this website and then hashtag, CES or something like that? Were there ways for the brand to trace those sales, or was it just literally based on time? If somebody came in and ordered, you knew that this massive effort you're putting in at CES in Las Vegas, that they were going to be correlated to those? Or was there like a physical QR code or a literal piece that literally tracked it back to your efforts there?
Yeah, the great thing we did there is we had a little bit of both. So we had this opportunity for people to even pre-sale order it that weren't even there and didn't even see it. People just thought it was cool. So we created social campaigns and putting content out every day that educated people that weren't even in Vegas to be like, that was really cool. I like this product. Let me check it out. So that created pre-sales on its own. But we did have physical QR codes and hashtags and the timing and coupons to like go to the store and buy it. If you lived in Vegas, you could go to the store and pre-order that way. So we had ways that way of tracking it as well. So we did a couple different things between QR code, timing, store, driving to a specific store, and then being able to capture that data from them. And then obviously the social to get those orders in from anywhere in the world.
So listen, when you work with a big brand that's got millions of dollars of budget, you know, this kind of next level, you know, playbook is expected. But the reality is that a lot of times we're working with smaller clients. So whether you're an agency or you're a brand, but your size book applies across the board, but the spend obviously is going to fluctuate. But I love how you're tying that all together with, I mean, so Brendon, you started off as a guest on the show, and we talked a lot about creating content at an event and then using that content during the event, after the event, to push the next event. Like you're building these digital assets that you can play them across the board. Carter, you're kind of talking about the same thing. It's like you're doing all these things. You're in, you know, you're pressing flesh and making friends out on the streets, and you're driving traffic, and then you're capturing that on content. You're playing it on social, and you're doing all those things. That doesn't have to be a giant brand budget. Like that same playbook can really kind of scale down to a business of almost any size, which is really cool.
100%. I mean, that's, you know, the more money you have, the more people you can have. You can do it with a smaller team. You know, we had 70 plus out all over the street. That's a lot of people for 3 or 4 days of a show. But you could scale the same thing with 5, depending on the market and the product and, you know, how long you have to promote it. You can, to your point, creating that playbook is super important in the infrastructure. You can scale it up or down as you see fit. Do it in a very specific target area. That's a market that you're really trying to push sales in, it's new to them, or the sales drop that year, or whatever the case may be. You can go really hyper focused on those, but it's, to your point, the same playbook throughout.
Yeah, no, that's great. Brendon, I'm going to kick it back over to you, but just we're getting a lot of folks checking in with this is fantastic. So I know Janice, who's going to be our guest next week, she's up in Toronto, and Bill is in Chicago. We've got James checking in. Yes, James, absolutely. And a bunch of other folks. So this is great. Appreciate all you folks kind of checking us out live. So Brendon, where are we going from here? Partnerships, relationship building, experiential marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you were just talking about, Chris, how the content strategy doesn't have to be this massive team of people. The strategy can scale, you know, it can up or down. And I think that that's a really exciting thing to talk about. The part of that strategy, I think, coming out of it is that when you employ that, then you also leave with a library of content, and that is an asset that can be repurposed for, you know, months after the event. So it's really, you know, thinking beyond that event moment into what could be done afterwards is really exciting. But I think so that's just a comment. But I think what I'd like to get from you, Carter, is a perspective, I guess, on how a experiential event really drives that a deeper relationship and a deeper connection with people that participate in it. That's sort of a philosophy kind of question, but talk about how that works.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a day and age now where people are all about the experience. Not so much the product itself or the service. I mean, that's important. That's part of it. But it's, how can I relate to a product or a brand? Does it trigger a memory for me and takes me back? You got that nostalgia element. How do they connect with that That is so important. So to create these experiential moments that people will remember, they may have to do a little bit more education on the product. If we've done it right, Robotproof prides itself on the education and doing the research and understanding what the product or the service or the brand can do for you and how you can connect with it. Again, creating that ambassador rather than a customer, someone that goes out there and sells on your behalf. The other thing that's important about experiential is people trust other people, right? They would rather not have a brand talk at them and say, this is why your product is best for you. Let them, again, make that connection to the brand or the product, and they go out and tell that story. So when you have social influencers that are relatable to people, or staff, or the way you frame with content or the experience itself is transforming them or transporting them to another nostalgic moment that's like, I connected with that product, they're going to go tell other people about that. People trust other people. So we want to create that community in the experience, which sometimes at a trade show, it's, again, very sales is pushing leads. We got to get as many leads as possible, and then we got to follow up. But doing these experiential moments outside of a booth or a pop-up or anything like that, creating those experiences are much more valuable for them, because they're going to go out and now spread the word and tell their community about why their experience was great. Then other people are going to go look at that product and do their research, and it creates conversation organically, rather than us having to go out and beat our chest and say, look how great our product is, or a brand doing that. Let people tell your story, which is so much more impactful.
And do you feel in that way that, so going back to the content topic, that user generated content or attendee content is effective? Do you find that or can you manage it a little bit so that you can create the content coming from the user is what you were hoping it would be?
Yep. There's user generated content is great, but I do think you need to kind of craft the story a little bit and set them up for success, to like what kind of content you want to capture. It's not just letting them go willy-nilly, because we all know how that can go sometimes. But if they've got an infrastructure,
possibly go wrong.
Just like a live show. I mean, sometimes you drink on them. Creating an infrastructure for those folks to guide them to capture it the right way can be impactful. I do think it's important because, again, people trust other people, but it still needs some kind of craft to that to help guide them, for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. It's something that I've thought a lot about, that, it's not one or the other. It's not a full-on production team. And if you can't do that, then it's all user generated content that you have no control over. I think there's a sweet spot in the middle that you can really create a strategy where the brand is reflected in the way that you want it to be inside the experience, and then it works for both. It's
100%.
Maybe a low cost option, and then also is but is also brand focused and supports them, puts them in the right light. So that's great. Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, just a shout out from James B, dropping some great comments in here. So the first one was content development and use can be powerful tool to build community with your attendees. Obviously, that's just exactly what we just kind of figured up there, or just what you guys were just talking about, I should say. And then after that, he said, and we were talking about taking a playbook from a big brand, but scaling it down. So right sizing is so important. You can be successful at small scale if you target properly, right? So knowing your audience, understanding what they're there for, and just making sure that message is dialed into kind of where you want to go. Super important on that. And as we were talking about brands, and granted, there's massive multi-billion-dollar companies out there, and then there's personal brand. So we didn't really touch on it, but I wanted to give Carter a shout out, because one of the reasons that Carter is such a great follow is because he's like king of the dad jokes. And I don't know if you're like somehow AI generating these things, or if your brain is.
I'm not. They're not AI generated.
Okay, that's awesome. I didn't think they were, but if you guys aren't following James, I'm sorry, if you're not following Carter, you need to start immediately, because every day he will show up in your feed and drop just some knee slappers and some, chortlers, as it were. So he is Carter. I think one of the one of the areas that we connected around was we're obviously both dads, and we've got, you know, these kind of warped sense of humor. But at one point, I think a couple months ago, my wife was just having a bad day at work, and in our family text thread, she texts like, "I'm having a shitty day. Like, somebody just tell me a joke." So, and I immediately went to Carter's feed. I pulled up like 6 of the last 6 days, and I just started typing, "These are the jokes coming up." I didn't tell them where they came. I let her think that they were mine. But
Of course,
smart.
What's mine is yours, Chris. What's mine is yours, Chris.
But anyway, so I so appreciate really kind of the fact that you take your work seriously, but you don't take yourself seriously. I think there's a lot to that, and we can all find just joy and humor in our daily, you know, work. I think in a meeting yesterday, day before, internally, you know, our one of our leaders took time to say, what we do is really freaking cool. All right. So we're not like digging ditches. We're not selling the same thing over and over again. We're working in an industry with fun people who want to be creative and do things that move the needle. And it's just fun. And granted, it's not always fun, and there's some bad parts about it, but it is a really fun industry. And I think that the humor that you bring to your personal brand, I think, speaks to who you are. And at the end of the day, if I've got a choice between working with a few different people, I want to go and work with the person that I like, the person that resonates with me. So just, you know, kudos to you on kind of leaning into that and making that part of really who you are and what you're known for.
Well, I appreciate that. And it's, you know, the reason I gravitated to Robotproof and why I love working there so much is one of our core values is actually be the best humans. So it's just to be a good person, because that's numero uno when you're working with someone. Clients come and go. You hopefully hope they don't go. But they, you know, they can be tough to work with at times, but we want to be the best people that you work with. And part of that is just the people that we are. You know, the world is going through all kinds of things right now. Our industry is crazy at times. Just putting a smile on somebody's face first thing in the morning or finishing the day is something that's so simple. It's free. Like, why would we not do that? And that's the purpose behind why I started doing it. Also, that my wife and kids didn't want me to do it also motivated me to want to do it. And a lot of the content that you see has been filtered through them. So the bigger the eye roll,
Nice.
the better it is. The better
it is. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. Hey, we've got a question here. A LinkedIn user, sorry, don't know the name. Does this team feel like the UGC and brands wanting to piggyback on this create tight turnaround that agencies are fighting against? I don't know, thoughts to the team on this one.
I mean, Brendon, do you want to tackle first from a content side? I have my perspective, but you jump in there first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, brands want that. They want to be quick. They want to be out there. There's a lot of noise, but there's a lot of pressure to move stuff quickly. My concern is that when you move quickly, that you're going to lose control. And so again, going in with a strategy that says, hey, this is how we, you know, if you can put somebody in a box and it's UGC, I think that can be helpful. And I don't mean like, you know, stifle them. I'm just saying, like, if you can point them in the right direction, then the brand is going to benefit from that moment that the user creates content about your event. So I think that it's, I just think it needs a little bit of control, and then you get a better result.
Yeah, and that's part of asking those tough questions early on. Again, that brief may come through and maybe content's not part of it, but why aren't we asking the question, hey, have you guys thought about this? What's the bigger story that you're trying to tell? What's the plan for things? Like, let's have that conversation now. And whether they're like, we can do that in-house or we need someone to do that, or at least it's got them thinking about content and it's part of the story as you're planning everything out. Everyone wants it fast. But I think,
do you guys feel like yes, I'm sorry to cut you off there, Carter. Do you feel like the briefs that you guys are seeing or getting are they just kind of internet generated gobbledygook, or are they typically well thought out? And I'm wondering if I'm comparing this to RFPs And RFPs that we're getting as of late are just like, it feels like there's somebody on the internet put something up there that was like, how can we make this as ridiculous as possible for any agency to kind of submit information that's actually personal and humanized, and we're just gonna, everybody's kind of copying it and adding in a slight amount of their own personal questions. But I feel like a lot of this stuff is somewhat genericized. Do you find in the creative briefs that you're getting, is it apparent that the brand has sat down and really thought through everything?
Unfortunately, no. We get some. The ones that we are already working with a client, that it's a new project or something coming up, are much more personalized and make sense. You know, we really try, when we get any kind of an RFP or a brief or anything like that that comes in, we do what we call a brief back. So we take all the information in, we put our questions together, we pull any old information that we can find, and we send it back to them and say, this is what we heard. Confirm that, number one. Two, here's some other things that we're thinking about. Is that something that could come down the road as part of this? Because we want to, again, think about the whole story. And again, that helps with budget. How can I amortize things over time? That kind of stuff. So you have to push those questions. But there is a lot. And to be honest, I really feel like some of these brands do it just to weed out folks, to just shortlist it, be like, this is so ridiculous, I'm not going to respond. It's either a tight turn or it's super general. And they're just like, I've got other work. I'm not worried about that right now. So I feel like some of them do it just to shortlist and make their job a little bit easier. But I have seen a few that are definitely AI generated, just thrown out there to see. But again, the ones that we've been working with someone has been a little bit more clear and concise.
Yeah.
I literally just did that yesterday, Carter. And I hadn't thought of it that way, but brief back, like, you know, it's the going back to them with questions that, you know, here's everything I saw that you asked for, but in all of that, you're maybe missing some things, or this doesn't connect to here. And, you know, just trying to clarify and make sure that, you know, I can respond appropriately, because the worst thing would be to respond and then realize later you get accepted and there's all this other stuff that you didn't know they wanted. So,
yeah. And it's, you know, the RFP game is tough, because you're just submitting potentially, and you're hoping. And to be honest, Robotproof does much better when we can present and talk to people and understand what the pain points are, that we can really dive in and talk through creatively, rather than just putting beautiful slides and a story together. We can do that too, but you know, the chances of landing are much higher when you can have that conversation and talk through it.
Yeah, it feels much more like a partnership, and somebody and a you know, a partner that's coming in to help, and not somebody that's like who's the cheapest.
Yeah, we don't want to be a vendor to people. We want to be a partner.
Yeah, right. Perfect.
And what you guys are both talking about, I think, is a differentiator for us as companies, or as an agency, a creative group, right? Is to come back. I got your brief. I got your RFP. Here's a bunch of questions that you know, we're just wondering, based on what you've said here. Either that's going to weed you out as a troublemaker, or a real partner, or somebody who's thoughtful enough to be like, you know, I'm really kind of questioning some of your strategies here, and which you likely don't even have, but it's just something that, you know, AI generated, or you know, found a template on the internet and just plugged some crap into it.
Yep.
So, hey, you know, we are at 43 minutes. We don't have a hard stop per se, but we usually try to not go to a full hour, although we may today, because I want to talk to you, Carter, about what's the future of experience. And plus we're all drinking, you know, some beer here. So we have to at least either get to the end of the beer or run to the bathroom, if you're an older man, like we all are.
Men of a certain age.
Men of a certain age with bladders the size of a small elementary school child. Anyways, Carter, where's kind of the future of elementary? Where's the future of experiential going, in your opinion? What do you see this looking like in a year or 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, experience is always going to be the thing. I think everyone wants a true experience, and again, not being talked at by groups. I think creating those experiences for folks is going to be a thing. Look, we've played the roller coaster game in experiential for years, where it's, you know, people love agencies. They're all in on agencies to get fresh thinking and these creative ideas, and they love that. Then it's like, well, those agencies are too expensive. Let's bring it in-house and do it ourselves. And you're like, okay, cool.
Mm.
Then they do it and they're like, I'm losing employees, or they're exhausted because they're wearing 17 different hats and they're trying to do too much. Now let's go back to agencies, but let's go boutique, let's go small. So that roller coaster is always going to be going. I feel like it's just, it comes in waves, and that's just the way it is. But experiential, again, is so important about just being willing to learn and try things. You're going to fail sometimes, but you don't know unless you do it. So creating experiences for folks that are well-researched, you've listened to feedback, you're creating these personal connected moments are going to create a lasting impression. And again, the ultimate goal is to create that ambassador of your product, someone that goes out and tells your story and preaches shouts from the rooftops about how great this product or this service or whatever, how it connects with you. That's going to be the biggest thing. Now, how we do that, AI is going to be a thing. Technology is going to keep coming out with things like all of these elements that we can't plan for are going to happen. But at the core, you've got to have creating these experiences.
I'm going to go show our age here and go back to, the internet boom of the late 90s. Right. And it was like, this is literally going to put, trade shows out of business, because now we can just do everything on the internet. And what happened? It actually spurred like just massive amounts of new shows, because all of a sudden there's this new market and new thinking and so forth. Fast forward through the housing crisis of 2008 and all the way to the pandemic, everything goes online, everything goes digital. We're all of a sudden comfortable with this format that we're doing right now, which is great. But what the process or what comes from that is, like, at the end of the day, we're still human and we need the connection with other people. And it's wired in our DNA to sit around a campfire and tell stories of the hunt and all of those things. Right. So when you take that ability away, or you do it in a digital fashion, which is a nice middle step, which is great. It's better than nothing. But it's not face-to-face. It's not, the hug and the handshake and the things that you get when you're in person. So
and the beer drinking.
and the beer drinking, so the more that technology kind of offers us new options and alternatives, the more that the human connection is that important. So I'm here for that for sure. So
100%.
Thanks for kind of painting that picture, for us.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that nothing will replace, like you said, a handshake, a hug. When you're in a digital space, you can get distracted. Your phone's right there. You can turn your camera off. You can be doing multitasking and doing everything else. But if you're engaged with someone face to face, then now you're seeing emotion. You're seeing how they respond. The connection is unlike anything else. And that's, we didn't really talk about this, but like one of our collective resources within Atoms in Space is, VR content. We've noticed VR content, you put the headset on, you have to be in that moment. Your retention rate is much higher than doing a deck or a Zoom call where people are getting distracted by other things. When you put a VR headset on, you're engaged in the content that's being spoken to you. It's still training, but now your retention rates are higher. So it's, again, tech can be there. It's important, but you've got to create things that really let people go all in on it and can't let them get distracted.
Yeah. And it's not, on the show side, people want to do the shiny things and like, let's bring technology into the booth. But it has to tie in. It has to make sense. It has to be part of the storytelling process and otherwise it's just a thing that's in the corner and like, okay, go do that activation or whatever. And you lose the impact for sure. All right. So Carter, before we sign off and wrap this up here on this amazing July 3rd episode number 27, by the way, we are more than halfway through the year. And this little podcast of ours is growing a following. So I see lots of friends in the comments and great to have everybody here. Rob, cheers to you, man. So we don't want to be a vendor. We want to be a partner, and that's how we feel as well. So, but thanks for calling that out. We like to wrap up with can you leave us with like 3 actionable takeaways, thoughts that you can kind of just share with everybody to kind of put a bow on this?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's things that we've talked about throughout the session today. You know, understanding the whole team's goals is super important. Not again, you get a brief and it will probably check a bunch of boxes, but pushing that discovery phase and asking the tough questions, understand what everyone's goals are. I think you'll get a lot more value out of whatever experience you're creating, whether it's a trade show booth or a pop-up or anything like that. I think understanding everyone's goals will make the partnership a lot stronger. Innovate, constantly be willing to learn, try things, see what's out there, do your research, play around with things. Again, just that is one goal I have for myself as a personal person, but also at Robotproof is, you know, be willing to learn, try new things, see what works, what doesn't. Take that. If it doesn't work, pivot quick and try something else. But always be willing to innovate and try new things. Lastly, has been something past couple years that we've really leaned into and seen a lot of want for is be inclusive. Don't just think about the person at the show, but think about how that person feels. You know, neurodiversity has become a very big thing that's being publicized and people are getting educated on and hasn't really been thought about until recently. That's something we try to think about. It's like, okay, these people may be overstimulated. Can we create a safe space that ties to this event that they can go rest, recharge their batteries? Sometimes that's as simple as doing that. We just did the first public facing calm space at Cannes. The festival has never done a public facing resilient space. They've done VIP ones and behind the scenes, but this one was public facing with the new project. Shout out to Megan Hinshaw and Rachel Lowenstein for that. But they just created a small space for people at the end of their day, overstimulated with panels and conversations and activations and all that stuff, a space to go rest, recharge, close your eyes for a second, get your mind right, and then you can go back out, and it resets so much stuff. So think inclusivity when you're planning your experiences and your events.
Yeah. No. Awesome. Those are 3 great takeaways. I appreciate that. You know, we're trying to think about that in our exhibit world as well and create not necessarily a quiet space on the booth, right? You got to maximize your investment in square footage. But do you create an interactive kiosk where there's not a salesperson who's up somebody's, you know, backside, but just an opportunity for somebody to learn at their own pace and come in and engage and not have to, you know, be pounced on, right? So
Yep.
Addressing kind of all the different types of folks who are out there and understanding that, you know, the not the golden rule, but the platinum rule, right? Is treat people how they want to be treated, not treat them how you think they want to be treated.
Yep. Create those experiences and let them take the journey in their own way. Give them the resources. Right. If that's scan a QR code and give them information to go read when they're laying in bed at night, give them the resources to the data that you want them to understand, but let them do it at their own pace.
Awesome. I think it's a great way to kind of put a bow on this whole event here. This has been fantastic. What a great conversation. Really appreciate both Brendon and Carter joining us. Carter, after this, obviously people are going to be like, how can I get more Carter Parrish in my life? So what's the best way to reach out to you?
I mean, I'm on LinkedIn daily basis with the dad jokes. Find me on LinkedIn. We are robotproof.com is our website. Fresh new rebrand. Super excited about that. Check that out.
Awesome.
But again, LinkedIn is the best way to find me. Send me a DM, post, comment, do anything. I'll get back to you. I won't leave anything go unanswered.
Awesome. This has been great. We've had a real active group of folks kind of weighing in with questions and comments. And hey, everybody out there, 10 fingers, 10 toes, like all the things, like make sure you're coming back.
Yes.
On the flip side,
bring them all back.
Bring all your digits.
Safety first, folks.
Safety first. Fund, 1A. So this has been great stuff, guys. Really appreciate everybody kind of weighing in, sharing their stories, sharing their knowledge. And again, we're building a community here with Event Marketers Toolbox. All are welcome. Any kind of aspect or part of the events realm. We're trying to kind of grow this show. So after obviously many people have tuned in live, which is wonderful. The recordings are available forever and ever on LinkedIn, or at least until that comes to an end. But LinkedIn, YouTube, and then all of the podcast channels that are out there. So if you end up listening to this and it's December, then understand that we recorded this 6 months ago, and we enjoyed a couple of frosty beverages here on almost the 4th of July Eve, as it were.
Yes.
Right.
But share, comment, like, share. Let's grow the community and help each other have as much success and happiness in our wonderful little event world as possible. So cheers, everybody. Thanks from the Event Marketers Toolbox. Everybody have an amazing long weekend here in the US. And if you're in Canada or the UK, then happy Thursday. Take care.